Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to know, you just made me think of another question. So what are those 5 types?
Okay, so I'll rhyme them off. Energetic, sensual, sexual, which most men get classed as if they're like going for it. I'll explain in a second.
Yeah.
Are you like owning that?
Yeah.
That's me!
1 and 3 so far.
Okay. And then kinky, which is, it's kinky and then shapeshifter is the last.
Shapeshifter.
Which can be fluid in all and likes all.
Got it.
And more. And more, please. And then more.
Continue.
I love
And we're back, guys. We're back. We are back. Yeah, that is it. Welcome back, guys, to a Different World podcast.
Yeah.
The show that we thrive on having disruptive conversations about entrepreneurship, about religion, about pop culture, and everything in between. Mm-hmm. This is episode 4. We're going to be talking about sex and religion. And I'm your host, Corey Kareem, alongside next to
Angelina.
And myself.
which is
Kurt Carter.
He's like, I just people just know who I am. I don't have to tell them my name.
no intro needed, right? Just so special.
Just the
I
thing.
made fun of Kern today because I was like, man, he's like dressed like he's about to do like a rap video or something.
And what's up? Come on, Angelina. No?
Well, it's a very unique look.
That's what you're going to tell me?
Unique or interesting?
I got a lot of compliments.
That's
today.
her politically correct answer.
On camera.
I mean, we're matching. We're both wearing denim.
I'm with that.
Both wearing vintage denim.
Has no stripes underneath.
Like that's a big old oversized bra.
Ange could be a White House staffer the way she answers questions.
I'm foreshadowing, right? You're foreshadowing.
Yes, so Kern.
We've got a special guest in the house.
Yes.
Bad.
Should I be worried?
Woo! Yeah!
So, Beth, you have like the most interesting history ever.
Yeah.
You were an accountant. You were in real estate.
Oh yeah.
Property management.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
how would you describe your job? Please.
Oh, see, I keep changing what I call it. I have
give
a
us
new
a
term.
title. Give us a title.
My new title? Okay, I'm trying it out.
Okay, here we go.
Shame coach.
Shame coach.
I don't know.
Round of applause for that
The shame coach.
That's heavy. That's real.
I don't know. I'm feeling it out. Because, okay, like yesterday it was pleasure coach. It's an evolution.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But really when I get to the heart of it, what I care about is that no one has shame.
Right.
So I talk about sex and intimacy.
Yeah.
But really anything where I see shame, it bothers me. I want that to go away.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so what I don't do is accounting anymore. And I
It's very vast from accounting. Very a bit to the left of accounting.
Yeah, and I can hardly think numbers anymore. But I do some of my process in Excel, so I'm still kind of an Excel nerd. I coach people around intimacy, so there's no shame, and that they get to have great pleasure in the area of sex. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, then when you clear it away in that intimate, private place, there's clearly shame other places. People limit pleasure like crazy. It's strange.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you distinctively work with people that come from like a religious sort of background. Mm-hmm. So my question is for you. So for people that have basically practiced abstinence, so they didn't have sex, and they come into marriage, so they get married, and they find out, this ain't really working for me. How do you coach towards that?
First of all, I have to just rant a little bit about that, because that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a crazy expectation that religion has, and yet I get it, and some people still want to honor that. So I'll speak about one of my clients. She's in her 40s, still struggling if she even believes in that still, agrees with it, but she doesn't want to make a rash decision about that. And so part of the coaching is around belief. It's actually, the coaching is about sex and it's about spiritual beliefs. It's like this intersection. Because what do I actually believe? I'm doing this, I'm feeling guilty, or I might be feeling honor toward this abstinent thing. And yet, why? Why am I doing that? So part of the coaching is actually around the belief and the value system that you want to own.
Right.
Because even if, like, logically, I might believe something, but because religion ingrains it so early, I might still be like held back without even realizing it. So you really have to look at it. So I'm not exactly answering your question, but that's like, it's like a precursor to it.
Right.
And so then I work with people to actually, so your answer was once you get in the marriage, then what? Oh dear. Like, okay. So then, so I actually studied for the last year around erotic blueprints, which I love. I love.
You got her attention.
Look at that. Yeah, because so a woman named Jaya May, she created these. So some people might know what love languages are. There's 5 love languages that help.
And Chapman.
Essential. It's essential.
It is because so often you feel like you're not being loved, but really they're speaking a language that isn't your love language. And so then all of a sudden it's not about you aren't loved, it's that you're not actually interpreting the love.
Right.
So pleasure, it's like pleasure types. Erotic blueprints are like, there's pleasure types. It captures like stages of sexuality. Also it talks about obstacles, but the thing that people can grab onto is around the typing. So there's 5 types, and it takes away the bad and wrong, which unfortunately a lot of us have attached to desire and pleasure, right? I mean, there's guilty pleasure for a reason, that term, right? So then I work with them to understand what is their erotic blueprint, and then what is their partner's, and oftentimes it's just a mismatch of understanding. How do you get turned on? What's your access point to pleasure?
So I'm curious to know, you just made me think of another question. So what are those 5 types?
Okay, so I'll rhyme them off. Energetic, sensual, sexual, which most men get classed as if they're like going for it. I'll explain in a second. Are you like owning that?
That's me. 1 and 3 so far.
Okay. And then kinky, which is, it's kinky, and then shapeshifter is the last.
Shapeshifter.
Which can be fluid in all and likes all.
Got it.
And more. And more, please. And then more.
Continue.
I love it. Okay, so energetic is the person that I have a lot of people coming to me who are misaligned. So I'll have either an individual come and they're trying to reawaken and they're dealing with what's blocking them. Or I'll have people, I call them lifers. They've been in a long-term relationship and sex has not been going well. Like they're good. They often call themselves soulmates, right? And that area is just so off. And often it happens when someone is a sexual or a shapeshifter and the other is an energetic, who is someone who actually gets turned on by space. So if you come in too fast, it's like done.
Repelled.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there's a big judgment of themselves, a big judgment of that. Their partner's judging them. The poor sexual is okay. So anyway, carry on. I could talk about that all day.
No, I think one of the things that I'm really digging is you talking about the shame, being a shame coach, or kind of, because a lot of people can't really even explore those 5 areas until they deal with their shame or their beliefs and
you
stuff.
got it. I literally I actually assess if people can even go there right away. I actually have them align their sex life, their pleasure with their value system. Right. And you got to deal with that. Like, because there's people will judge pleasure, and it's often because it's fleeting, it's empty. So when you align pleasure with your core self, like your true self, your values, what's important in life, that's a deep kind of pleasure. So you have to do that first, and then you get, And
I think that because a lot of people, feel shame about their own identity in terms of those 5, and when their partner presents an identity that's different than theirs, they jump to shaming them as well. And like that breaks down a whole lot into the relationship. So how does one learn to be a bit more compassionate towards a partner that might be different than them? Can people adjust their languages or
here's the cool thing. Okay, and this is something I love. We've talked about this before. We've talked about what's this whole this idea of cheating.
Yeah.
And how does cheating not happen?
That's one of Kern's favorite subjects, actually.
It's a fascinating
You
one.
know what we're talking about here? Beth is on. Beth is the interviewee today. I'm just sitting back. I'm just sitting back.
No, just being very like, what is that? What is cheating?
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, you don't have to ask that question.
No, there's so many. It's like, can we like be here all
Hold
night?
on, finish, answer the first question.
Yeah. So you said, can you expand? Wait. So I was going to answer your question. Yeah. That if you're off and you're different, and then you're getting shamed, or they're shaming you, shame, all over the place. That's what happens. You shame yourself, they shame you, blah, blah. The thing that's cool about erotic blueprints, just like the 5 love languages, is you realize, oh, they actually do love me. Or, oh, they're not an idiot because they don't realize I love them. All of a sudden you realize, oh, they are sexual. Oh, I am sexual. Oh, wait, oh, my desires are okay. Hang on, what? And so then people start to own that and get, like, there's like a bit of a pause and peacefulness.
Yeah.
But what I love about it and why I brought in the cheating is like when you realize and you kind of own your own, you've got like endless expansion into the other blueprints. Like it's not like you're stuck in your own. It's not a typecast.
Right.
But it is like, okay, to know that I always, I hugged you. I'm a hugger. So I always check in with people. What's your thing you'll say yes to? You know. I love hugs. So just like that, you probably know, I'll always say yes to like a hand massage or a massage. My friend comes up and wants to give a massage. There's no one likes rejection. So it's helpful to know what your yes is. So in Erotic Blueprint, you learn, okay, I have a default access to my pleasure. My partner knows my default access. So if you're energetic, that means you have some space, you have some eye gazing. And then you know, okay, I'm not going to get rejected if I'm a sexual. Sexuals get rejected a lot or get really frustrated because they don't want to be bothered by foreplay. But and they don't carry a lot of shame as much as others, but they get really irritated. So
by other
I'm not looking at you. Anyway.
So I had one quick question though.
Yeah.
A lot of you talking about like these different kind of sexual beings type of people, right?
Yeah.
In sexual relationships. When people are actually in a relationship, are they making assumptions though? Like, are these things assumptions before they even like know for real? You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm in a relationship, we're in a relationship. I'm just assuming these things about you before someone like you steps in. Am I correct?
Oh, completely. In fact, I would say there's a ton of judgment related to sex. Tons and tons. Like, I hear a lot of people talking about, I don't think she's sexual. I'll hear that a lot from them. I actually think my wife's not. I think she's asexual. My wife thinks she's asexual. So then it becomes hopeless, right? Or they assume that the one that wants sex is like, oh, they're shallow. They're just like, that's all they want. They just want to get satisfied. They're selfish. Like, so because we don't actually talk for real about sex very much, we're just all assuming based on a movie or some random way you learned about sex.
Some buzzword we heard somewhere.
Or like the magazine that's in the aisle of the grocery store. You just assume, this or that. Like, we don't actually have good conversations. Our culture is highly sexual, but we don't actually have good, valid, real conversations that often about it. So we make total assumptions, and we don't know how to talk about it well, especially if we're in a relationship, because you're risking a lot.
You're risking a lot.
We're risking a lot. So,
cool. Corey is a musician here. Angela does church too. Angelina does church too.
Clearly. That was a praise the Lord.
Hallelujah. All right.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I'm so glad you're here because when I heard your story, I was really, really eager to talk to you about some pivotal stuff. And when you kind of said, you're shifting from, or you're playing around with your title from pleasure coach to shame coach, I was like, this is so perfect, right? Because I think that a lot of us have a challenge with experiencing pleasure, however we want to experience pleasure because of shame. And for many people, that shame comes from church or a religion, right? So I'm going to kind of take my time into this because I think there's so many layers. But you yourself have an experience with being, you know, heavy duty Christian, evangelical, you know, no sex before marriage, and sex is only like, you never really talk about sex.
Yeah.
So even having your own sexual autonomy and learning about what you like, that's kind of like you wait for your husband to show you what you like and how to experience all those things, right? So how do you feel, based on the clients that you've had and even your own experience, how do you feel church has played a role in, I would say, I'm gonna use my words, destruction of our sexual autonomy and our sexual identity, but for your experience, like what kind of role do you think church has played?
It's interesting because if you could ask me that like at different phases, I would have different answers. Because at times I was really angry. And now I actually can say that it is destructive, and it's also made such a beauty in me. So I just did my first workshop that I did called Converting Religious Shame to Soulful Intimacy. I shouldn't say it's the first, it's the second. I did one out west.
Can you say that again?
Converting Religious Shame to Soulful Intimacy. And I'm actually now going to turn it into a series of 3 workshops because it's a lot to unpack.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but what I loved about that is I go through, okay, what is affected by religion anyway? Because you said, there's those of us who grew up in a religious home, that's me, raise hands, who grew up in a religious home, and then there's the level of being affected by religion in a way that it's in your community.
Right.
So my daughters, they're affected by religion, but one step removed because it's grandparents.
Right.
Or they go to school, they don't go to school, but sometimes kids go to schools, right? And then there's a third is that our societies, in fact, most of our societies, if not all, are affected by religion. They're structurally designed based on some religion or another. So we all have this affected. And so how that has affected my life is that I've had a lot of shutdown, a lot of repression. And ironically, your pleasure and passion in the area of sex, which is so basic. It's like hunger of food when you're a kid. Like kids have a sexual desire early, but that's like scary. Very, very scary for parents. I'm a parent, it's a little scary for me to navigate that, right? But it's literally just a physical reaction.
Right.
And so when that starts to get shut down, like it's considered bad or wrong, no matter how that's communicated, you stop trusting self. Like imagine if you're hungry for food, and someone keeps saying, no, that's bad. You start being confused. That's how actually a lot of eating disorders happen, right? So you're having a similar effect on your own sexual desire. So it goes like wonky, like off. Maybe you repress it, or maybe you go off to another, the other side, right?
Right.
But what I've loved is as I've gone along the journey, because these are intersecting journeys, your religious, spiritual journey and your sexual, physical relationship to self is from birth.
Right.
They intersect and interweave at different times. And so I've then since realized what beauty has come, and that's why I call it soulful intimacy now, because when those of us affected by religion can own it and own the beauty side, you can actually go way deeper with your pleasure. You can actually go to a transformational place. It's quite beautiful.
Right.
And then I'll throw in one more theory I have about it is those of us who are unleashed around our pleasure, you actually get access to your true self. Because when you really look at your true desires, I'm not talking just sexual, because we generally shut down our pleasures because we can't have them. We won't get them. Not enough money, not enough time, shouldn't, can't, all that stuff. Just generally what we want, we shut down. It's trained from young. I tell my kids all the time, no. I'm aware of trying to not shut them down, right? So when we actually can just own what our true desires are, we may not get them all, but we can access something in us. And those of us affected by religion, we're actually designed, either we're like aligned with religion, or we like got this trained into us to contribute our beauty back to the world, to do amazing things. And so when your pleasure and passion is repressed, that beauty is repressed. Right. So it's this irony. The people who are actually most inclined to give back and contribute and do beautiful things for others, they were shut down. So there's a lot of layers here that yes, it's great to have great sex, like truly, clearly. But it's actually way more impactful that it's shut down or it's let loose.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I know again, because your religion is, the religion you grew up with, is Christian. You're of course aware, like all of us, a lot of people from the LGBT community who have been shunned, or again, definitely need some of the work that you're doing in terms of shame and dealing with it. How do you feel like your practice is in terms of interacting with people that identify as queer or trans or lesbian, gay, bi, you know, and kind of unleashing that part of themselves in a healthy way?
It really, so this is so interesting. I was just, there's a movie coming out. I checked it what the title was, but I can't remember. Boy Erased is coming out today. I think it's showing today. This is about an evangelical church that basically was a boot camp to bring you back to non-sinning around going outside of heterosexual.
Yeah.
So it would have been gay boys. We're trying to be ungayed, I guess. I don't know, that's my little term, right?
Yeah.
And it was really, really shameful and awful for these boys. And so I got engaged with this group called Generous Spaces. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. An interesting group. I was like enthralled. I was at a party in the summer, and because I worked at World Vision, which is a Christian-based organization, so I was at a past colleague's place, happened to sit down next to someone telling me what he was going to be doing that weekend. He was at this retreat put on by Generous Spaces, which is for LGBTQ plus. It's basically non-hetero, but it's also for anyone. And these individuals particularly grew up in Christianity and actually still align with Christianity, which blew my mind.
Wow.
That blew my mind. I'm like, what? And I'm like, can I come? And he's like, sure. He was so nice. So I went. I checked it out, and I was blown away because this organization actually was one of the organizations that was trying to undo that sin. Right. And then they realized the harm they were doing. And then in the Christian terms, they repented. And then there's this been organizational undoing, and then really trying to be a space. Like the term generous space is actually a beautiful space.
Right.
All are welcome. And so I really loved the concept here because it is about generosity of space, because can you not have a faith in a higher power and also have any desire you want?
For sure.
Like, of course.
Yeah.
But there is so much absoluteness in religion. And unfortunately, when you start poking in that, and I grew up in that. I went to Bible college. Did you know this? I don't know. I went to Bible college. I was that one praying for you underneath my breath. Right? Which is so judgy, so judgy. But what it is it's actually scary for someone who grew up knowing the absolute, because religions try to be absolute.
Right.
There's a comfort in knowing, oh my God, I know the truth, right? And so when that gets questioned, which anyone's sexuality, I felt shunned because I like sex, period. Let alone I was fine just that it was men, but so that was okay, but I just like sex a little too much, so I get shunned.
Right.
And
it's interesting that you say that, because I think that if I speak about my personal experience, I identify as straight, but because I know many people that do not, I feel like I feel their shame by proximity, if you know what I mean. Because I'm Christian, and you kind of hear the older folks say this, that, and next about gay people, and you're like, ugh. And you feel, if I want to be open with my desires or my views, am I able to do that if they're
inside of this?
Yeah, if they're speaking this way about my friends, or my family in many cases, can I really be free in speaking my truth? So it's like how, even when you're talking about like being around gay people and praying for them, and you're like, ugh, I'm like, it's heartbreaking, because we're like, what's the word I'm looking for? What's that word that Ivanka Trump could never say? What's that word? Complacent or no, that's not the word. But you're kind of like you're an agent,
because you're not speaking up
for them. Yeah.
I mean, it's true for so many things. People get shamed for being different, but in religion, it's like God has said
complicit. That was the word.
Yes, because you're in on it. You're in on it if you're not against it.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I feel like that to me is definitely a tough spot. Okay, so I want to talk about sexual liberation. Did you say goodness?
Sounds like a heavy word.
sexual
liberation.
Yeah, man. I feel
like we're back in the 70s.
Yeah, I know, right?
But you know what? Yeah, I think
60s.
we like to think that we are progressive, but there's a lot of blocks there. You know, like the fact that we're having this women movement again. You know, and then we kind of thought that we got over our bra burning stage, but clearly people have to be reminded.
Or witch hunting days.
Oh yeah.
It's actually interesting. But that makes sense though, because we're progressing as we understand it. Like, I think it's in phases because we don't even know the evolution of the woman and the man, because it's difficult to make a big leap.
Right. Yeah.
So more bra burning.
Yeah, more bra burning. I'm cool with that. Again, to kind of, because the whole shame aspect of the work that you do is so pivotal and really kind of goes to the core of who we are. Yeah. I want to know, like, where does that come from? Where did we start developing this shame stuff?
Wow, I know we're going to talk a little bit about the parenting and the kids side after I think in one of the segments, but I really think that we're brought up, and I talk about being affected by religion, but I think everyone in our North American society because we've all been grown up around, it's built on a Christian society currently. There's a disconnect between body and soul. Like soul got elevated, so take it back to Christianity. Soul got elevated, body got
promoted.
What is that? Demoted. So
okay, the writer judging me over that.
No judgment.
Shame.
I know, right? He looked at me like,
Game of Thrones.
promoted.
Shame.
That's why you're a marketer.